Welcome to Mike's Reacts. Well, today it's not really a reaction, it's more of a vlog. So, if you couldn't already tell by the title of my video, I have recently apparently contracted COVID-19. It's an adventure, and I decided to vlog about my experience of being COVID-19 positive asymptomatic. It is now September 12th, and I have been going from home to work for a week, and I am still experiencing no symptoms. Some disclaimers. When I initially quarantined myself after my swab test, I was roomed with my grandparents and my cousin, so there's 4 of us in one bedroom. Because it was the only bedroom that had an air conditioner and, room enough to house all 4 of us. So upon the discovery of my COVID positive status, I was racked with so much guilt on possibly infecting my grandparents, who are both senior citizens. So yeah, I felt pretty freaking bad, as you can tell. And the night before I found out my positive test result, I had a few drinks with my uncle. We had separate glasses, but still we were in pretty close proximity with each other. And he also had to have a swab test because he got exposed to someone whose results came out positive. And he found out that he was COVID negative just 2 days before we had those drinks. That kind of carelessness on my part is born from the assumption that I did not have COVID-19 because of the precautions I've taken for myself whenever I would step out for work. But obviously, those precautions didn't work because I somehow got it from my old workplace. I am, however, owning up to that carelessness when it comes to safety precautions at home, so don't think I don't feel guilty for possibly infecting my family. Now, what are these safety precautions you've been telling us, Mikes? Well, let me enumerate them for you. First, I wear a double layer of face masks whenever I go out. 1 surgical and 1 cloth. Or if I'm wearing the face mask that has like a slit to put like another mask behind that, 2 cloth face masks. Like so. So I'm gonna give you a close-up shot of how I do this. So this is the cloth face mask, and beneath that is the surgical mask. Then I twist it around the band of the cloth face mask because my ears will hurt. They can't take the strain because my ears are small. So it stays fastened like that. Along with the face mask, whenever I am traveling, I wear a face shield. I only take it off when I'm in the office. That's it. In the month I was in that specific workplace, once I step into the office, I never step outside. So, upon returning home, I shower immediately and I disinfect all my things. Or if I can't get to it, my grandma does. She sprays everything with alcohol. My watch, my 3 bracelets, my work bag, my face shield. We alcohol the hell out of it when I get home. Aside from that, I actually have some pre-existing medical conditions, and I have quite a bit. First one up, I have allergic rhinitis / sinusitis that comes up randomly for a whole day and doesn't go away even if I drink my allergy medication. And it results in a clogged / runny nose and sore throat on the next day. Second one, I also have a perpetual cough, born out of stress, late nights, and too much coffee that never went away, so it's still there. Sometimes after I drink coffee or I don't drink, after a day of not drinking any or much water, I just start coughing out of nowhere. But to me, that's normal. I get coughs a lot. Add to that, I also have allergic laryngotracheitis. What is that, you ask? Well, it's an acquired allergy that, upon consumption of seafood on my part, my throat closes up and it gets hard to breathe. Fourth, I also have a history of pneumonia. I got it when I was 9. And asthma that went away at some point. So yes, that is a lot of respiratory illnesses that I've collected over my 23 years of life. It stands to reason why COVID-19 is particularly dangerous to me because it targets the respiratory system. Symptoms include difficulty of breathing, cough, sore throat, sneezing. I mean, there's also fever and diarrhea, but that's a lot of respiratory diseases for one person, right? Anyway, on to the actual good bits. Part 1, the swab test. I got swabbed on a Friday afternoon, meaning I clocked into work, took a half day so I could get swabbed. While I was in line at the sports complex where the mass swab tests were being done, I observed social distancing, and after I got swabbed, I went home immediately afterwards. The whole thing didn't even take 30 minutes. Maybe give or take a few seconds, minutes in between, because I came in at a lunch break, and they essentially stuck a cotton swab down the back of my throat, which was initially uncomfortable, but overall quite pleasant. It's better than having a cotton swab up your nose, that's for sure. Since then, I was quarantined at the house. I did not step out even once. My family could attest to that. I did not step out of the house because I wanted to make sure that I wouldn't contract COVID-19 anywhere else. So the week after the swab test, again, I was stuck at home, and I was supposed to start at my new workplace that Monday, August 17th, but because of the test, I couldn't. It was fine, but after going out for a straight month for work, I got cabin fever real quick. Working/studying from home is hard, and I have so much respect for the people who are able to assimilate to that kind of setup. Shout out to teachers and students everywhere doing online classes right now. Y'all are the real ones. But it's just not for me. I was given some work, which took me way too long to do, and did a bunch of other stuff unrelated to work over the week. And as I said before, I slept in my usual room, the room with my grandparents and my cousin, and had a few drinks with my uncle that Thursday, August 20th. And then, chapter 3, the results. So, on August 21st, that's Friday, my current boss contacted me to say that I was, in fact, positive for COVID-19. But I didn't feel sick. I was exhibiting absolutely no symptoms. So we quickly concluded that I am one of the 80% asymptomatic people wandering around everywhere right now. So I immediately distanced myself from my family. I went into isolation in the room that I usually slept in. So that meant my grandparents and my cousin had to move rooms. My cousin has skin asthma, so we tried to keep him out of really hot places. But my room is the only room with an air conditioner, so that was a problem. Well, safe to say that I felt really guilty about it since it was decided that I'd keep sleeping in my room. I told myself that I was coming at this in a positive light, because if I don't, I'll just lie down in my bed having an existential crisis about my situation and cry a lot. Well, that was effectively the start of my home isolation. For the 6 days that I was alone in that room, it was more of a routine, actually. I'd wake up in the morning and a plate of breakfast would be sitting on the chair outside my room, and I'd eat breakfast, drink vitamins, do stuff until lunch, get another plate of lunch, and I'll eat it, take more vitamins, do stuff until dinner, and then medicine, and do stuff until I'm sleepy, and then just repeat for the next day. It took me a couple of days to get out of my own head and exercise because I was still trying to come to grips with the fact that I was COVID positive. But otherwise, it was kind of like the first few months of quarantine back in March. Only I'm alone and I can't talk to anybody in person unless they were outside my room and I was alone there. I also had my own bathroom on the 3rd floor of our house, and nobody was supposed to go up there except for me. On August 25th, that was a Tuesday, I was called by a doctor that worked in our city who told me that I would be transferring to a national isolation facility the next day, on the 26th. The LGUs have their own isolation facilities, most of them schools that were closed due to the pandemic, sports complexes, some hospitals, some hotels in the city if they had it. It was super short notice and I'd been expecting that call since I started isolating, but the doctor did say that I would only stay there for 5 days since I technically started quarantining myself on the 14th. The protocol stated that if you were symptomatic, the required days of isolation and quarantine would only be 2 weeks or 14 days because to recover from being an asymptomatic patient, apparently you just had to take some vitamins and some adequate rest. I don't know. She also said that my family would be tested on the day that I leave for wherever I'm supposed to be transferred to. And she said that the hotel would provide 3 meals a day: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and working Wi-Fi. So I shouldn't worry because that was like the biggest worry I had because I still did have work. Even though I was quarantined, I still had to do some work. Also, I need Wi-Fi to talk to my friends. I don't like not being able to talk to people, especially in this kind of situation. And that same day, or later that night, I guess, some person from the Philippine National Police contact tracing team called me as well and just asked where I went, the places that I went on the day that I got swabbed, and who I came into contact with on that day, which were just my family and my workmates from the office. The police officer got their names and I assured him that they were scheduled to be swabbed when I left for the isolation facility. Spoiler alert, the people in my former workplace who I shared a division with all got swabbed and they all tested negative, so that's great. So, the day after, I was to be transferred to the isolation facility. On the way to the isolation facility, there was a long, fast, bumpy, and dizzying ambulance ride from my house in Navotas City to an isolation facility in Quezon City, whose name I will not disclose since it's against house rules. Don't you know that we both feel love? I knew it from the start. We belong.
I am in the ambulance right now. The radio is loud. I'm kind of busy.
I was actually looking forward to riding an ambulance because, I don't know, it was on my bucket list. And I've always wanted to know what it feels like to ride in like a super fast van, but careful what you wish for, because it was horrible. Imagine I had 3 bags with me, and I was trying, and like there was one open coffee cup from McDonald's in one of them, and I was trying the whole ride. I was trying to prevent it from spilling all over the place. There in that isolation facility, me and the other person I was with were given room keys and house rules, along with some phone numbers that we could call if we needed something. Like if you wanted someone to buy water or fruits, fix something about the room, etc., etc. So I went up, and after a cursory glance around the room, took a shower, and I thought, okay, the room looks exactly what you'd expect from a hotel like this. And I don't mean it as an insult, but like it didn't have any windows. There was barely any lighting fixtures, that sort of thing that comes with being like a transitory hotel. Like a place that you would just stay at for one night and not expect brilliant service from. During my 1 week in that isolation facility, I encountered a few problems. The biggest one during my stay is that the Wi-Fi sucked ass. To be fair, there was Wi-Fi, but during my waking hours, it was barely working. So I could barely talk to my friends and family, let alone film reaction videos or do research work for my actual job. And I was assured many times over the phone and even in the ambulance and even in the hotel lobby that there would be Wi-Fi, but okay. I called the front desk about it, and they just said that the Wi-Fi really does get really bad when a lot of people were using it at the same time. So unless I wanted to do my work at 3 o'clock in the morning with unreliable Wi-Fi, even then, I should just not try it at all. Safe to say that I did not do any work that week. That's why I was unable to post my reaction video backlog or that reaction video of Gunshot that I just did. You can blame the hotel Wi-Fi for that. The cable was a blessing. I can't remember the last time that I watched something on cable. So that was neat. But around day 3, there was a blackout, and that resulted in the cable cutting out. It was only for a few seconds, give or take like a minute, 2 minutes. But when the lights came back on, the cable did not. I actually didn't realize how much I relied on the cable for entertainment and for keeping my sanity intact before that whole thing happened. The long hours of silence for 3 days straight was painful, and it was around that time that I realized why solitary confinement is a punishment in prisons. Yeah, I'm not joking. Sure, my situation isn't as grave as those inmates who had to endure that, but it actually felt quite the same. Because you're in a room with no windows, no one to talk to, barely any lights, artificial or otherwise, and nothing, absolutely nothing to distract you from the deafening silence. Like on the ambulance ride back home, even the person that I was discharged with from the hotel likened it to a prison. Like, I'm not joking. So I don't think I'm exaggerating here. It was not a good experience. There were also times when I just stared at the ceiling, feeling useless and directionless, feeling guilty about unknowingly getting into this mess and causing my family worry. Then maybe the thoughts were there from the beginning of my isolation period back home, but being faced with literal gray walls and silence on all sides projected voices in my head even louder. Another problem was that I had a terrible time sleeping. In hindsight, I didn't get even one good night's sleep or a real moment of peace, because these are the reasons. The nurses would call twice a day to check on us from the phone on the nightstand. And the guy who delivers the food to the chair outside the rooms would ring the doorbell 3 times a day for the food. Both the phone and the doorbell are extremely loud, and I'm very sensitive to sounds, not to mention I'm super freaking jumpy. So when you're trying to sleep in an unfamiliar place and the doorbell rings at 7 a.m. and then the phone rings 2 hours later, how could you even sleep? Like that was one of my biggest issues. In essence, the isolation facility was not fun. So as I mentioned, my family got tested on the 26th, the day that I left, and the following Friday we found out that they all tested negative, which led me to think, wait, how come they're all negative and I'm the only one who had a positive result? Because I hugged my cousin every day that week. We all ate together. And I watched movies beside my grandmother almost every night, but how come they all tested negative, right? Which led my mother and I to think, well, maybe I wasn't COVID-19 positive to begin with. Because again, I had all these pre-existing conditions and a string of respiratory ailments in my medical history that would probably trigger some type of infection, right? But then I immediately backpedaled because medical professionals examined the saliva samples, or snot samples, I guess, to specifically look for the viral strain that causes COVID. But there's also the theory that maybe they switched the samples or something, because the date on my test results say that I got swabbed on the 18th, 4 days later than when I actually got swabbed. Or maybe that was just the date that they processed the sample. And maybe I'm just grasping at straws because I'm still in denial that I got COVID in the first place, considering how careful I was being, considering how much precaution I took whenever I went outside. I'll just trust the medical certificate given to me and just be more careful, I guess, was my verdict. And then, September 2nd, after an hour of waiting for paperwork at a different hotel, and another hellish ride in an ambulance that wasn't made to fit 7 people, I and the 6 recovered patients that were discharged got dropped off at the Christmas tree just off the main road that leads into Navota City proper. Lucky for me, my house is just near enough to walk, but the rest of the guys had to commute back to their homes. There was one guy who lived in Tanza, which is like all the way across the city. And so I lugged my heavy bag full of dirty clothes under the blazing sun and took a shower as soon as I got home. I'm home. It's the next day, September 3rd. And I am in a new room. Ta-da! Ta-da! I transferred to a different room. So, since I'm recovered, I can have this to myself. After the remaining days of isolation that I have. I had a good sleep. I had a better sleep last night than I had in that 7 days in the hotel. And I'm just so glad to be home. So for the past week while I was in the isolation facility, my family was doing some spring cleaning and moving stuff from room to room, a result of which is my current bedroom. So a nurse friend of my grandmother's recommended that I actually stay isolated at least until the end of the week as a precaution. And since I was back home, I spent until Sunday doing the work that I was supposed to do and planned to do while I was in isolation. the week before. I talked to my friends as much as I could, and I stopped complaining about not being able to stretch my legs by going downstairs. Final thoughts. So this is a very long video, so I'll make the final thoughts short. First one is, you really can't tell when and where you could get COVID. And I know I got it somewhere in my workplace, but I still don't know who I got it from, or when I even got infected. That being said, be extra, more than extra with your personal safety precautions, because you might be limited in getting people to be as paranoid as you when it comes to limiting the spread, but you can always strengthen your body's defenses. Eat proper food, sleep at proper hours, drink vitamins, eat fruits, double up on masks, wear gloves if you want, wear long sleeves and pants everywhere, carry a bottle of alcohol in your pocket like it's mace, and spray everyone you see with it. Anything you can think of. Like, sure, you have to sacrifice a bit of comfort, especially with the clothes, like the mask. I find it like challenging to breathe in, but it's a small price to pay for not contracting the virus. And I know it's been said since the beginning of quarantine, but stay inside. Do not go out unless it's absolutely necessary or if you need to go to work. And if you do go out, make sure to take proper safety precautions like the ones I just listed. Because remember that if you let your guard down, it could affect not just you, but the people you live with and the people that you go to work with. I don't mean to scare you, but it's really the best to be extra cautious when dealing with such a heavily contagious disease. Also, it's okay to not do anything while in quarantine or isolation. I'm not sure how to describe the overwhelming weight of knowledge of current events, along with everyday personal situations and conditions that plagues many people's minds right now. But you're not a bad person for not being productive or being social or being happy. It's a lot, and not everyone can just shrug the weight off just like that. So if anyone watching this is stuck in that I feel useless, what am I doing with myself? I have so much free time. Why am I not doing anything mindset? Just remember that you are not alone in this. And it's completely normal to feel this way, especially during these times. And that's it. This video is super long, so I'll cut this here now. Anyway, if you like this video, make sure to give it a like. And if you want more of my content, make sure to subscribe. Bye, everybody. Stay safe.